Let me tell you something. If you've been following the electric vehicle world for any length of time, you already know that things move fast. Announcements drop, features ship, communities evolve, and before you've had a chance to catch your breath, the entire landscape looks different from what it did just a week ago. That's exactly what makes this space so exciting to be part of. And this week, there is a lot to talk about. We've got a community-built tool that's quietly becoming one of the most useful things an EV owner can have on their phone. We've got credible reports that Rivian is preparing to swap out its in-car voice assistant for something that could genuinely change how you interact with your vehicle. We've got a rare behind-the-scenes look inside Rivian's design studio, and some of what's on those walls will genuinely surprise you. The R2 is getting a safety tweak to its door handles that sounds minor on paper but matters a whole lot in practice. There's a viral right-to-repair story that blew up online and actually produced a real result. And at the end, we're going to close out with this week's Community Spotlight, and I promise you it's one of my favorites we've ever done. So buckle up because there's a lot to get through and every single one of these stories is worth your time. Let's start with something I've genuinely been excited to tell you about. You might already be familiar with Rivian ROR, the free community-built tool that lets you see live data from your vehicle, get software update notifications before most people even know an update is live, and generally stay more connected to what your Rivian is actually doing. It's been a staple in this community for a while now, and for good reason. It gives you a level of transparency that Rivian's own app honestly doesn't always match. But here's the thing, Rivian Roar just leveled up in a major way. The new tier, Rivian Roar Plus, is live right now, and I've been using it for the past several months. I've been working directly with Chad, the developer behind it, testing new features as they've come online, and what I can tell you is this, it has genuinely changed the way I understand my own vehicle. So what's new with Plus? The headline features are drive sessions with full maps and efficiency tracking, detailed charging session data complete with a charging curve so you can actually see how your battery is performing over time, and unlimited data retention, meaning nothing gets wiped after a few weeks. That last one matters more than it sounds. If you want to look back at a road trip from 6 months ago, compare charging speeds across different networks, or figure out whether a software update actually improved your real-world range, you need that data to stick around. Rivian's native app doesn't give you that. Rivian Roar Plus does. Now, I want to be clear, the free version of Rivian Roar is still excellent. It still gives you live vehicle data and status at any time, software update notifications sent directly to your email the moment a new release gets pushed to your vehicle, a clean basic dashboard, and even a fun little vehicle birthday email that I look forward to every year, more than I probably should admit. For a lot of people, the free version is everything they need. But if you're anything like me, if you're the kind of person who wants to know your average efficiency on every drive, who wants to analyze your charging curve and wonder why it dropped off faster than usual on a cold Tuesday in December, then Plus is absolutely worth the $4.99 a month. That's less than most people spend on a single coffee. I've been using it on daily drives, and I'm planning to bring it along on some upcoming road trips where I'll be sharing the full breakdown with you. The real-time mapping combined with efficiency data is going to make those trip recaps so much more detailed than anything I've done before. And speaking of what's coming, Chad just announced that leaderboards are on the way. I've actually been pushing for this feature for a while now, and I'm genuinely thrilled it's happening. Think about it. Best overall efficiency, highest elevation driven to, and my personal suggestion that I lobbied for, most time spent driving in reverse. That one is mostly a joke. Mostly. If any of this sounds like your kind of thing, the link to sign up is in the description. Chad has put an incredible amount of work into this, and supporting it means supporting a piece of this community that I think deserves to keep growing. Now let's talk about something that's been generating a lot of conversation, and honestly, I think it deserves more nuance than it's been getting. According to reporting from Rivian Tracker, Rivian is in the process of transitioning away from Alexa as its primary in-car voice assistant and moving toward a Gemini-powered experience built by Google. Before anyone in the comments starts typing their concerns, I hear you, and we're going to get to that. But first, let me explain why this actually makes a lot of sense and why I think it could be genuinely great for owners. Right now, Rivian's voice assistant works, but it's not exactly something you'd write home about. Anyone who has tried to use it for anything beyond the basics knows that it can feel clunky, slow to respond, and limited in what it understands. Follow-up commands are hit or miss. Complex requests often require you to start over from scratch. It doesn't feel like a natural part of the driving experience. It feels like a feature that got bolted on and was never quite finished. Gemini is a fundamentally different kind of AI assistant. It's built for natural conversation, it handles follow-up prompts gracefully, it understands context across multiple commands, and it is deeply integrated with the same Google ecosystem that is already living inside your Rivian. Google Maps is already there. Google Cast is already there. The foundation for a seamless Gemini experience already exists. This would be building on top of infrastructure that Rivian and Google have been developing together for years. What could that look like in practice? Think about asking your Rivian to send a text message while you're on the highway without having to fumble with your phone. Think about asking it to reroute around traffic and then, in the same breath, asking it to find a charging station that has at least 4 available stalls near your new exit. Think about truly natural language, not memorizing specific command phrases, not repeating yourself 3 times because the assistant missed a word. Just talking to your car like you'd talk to a person who happens to know everything about navigation, energy management, and your schedule. That is the direction this could go, and I find that genuinely exciting. With that said, the privacy concerns are real, and they're not unreasonable. More Google involvement in your vehicle means more data flowing through Google's systems, and not everyone is comfortable with that. I want to be fair to those concerns because I think they come from a legitimate place. Nothing about this is officially confirmed yet, so we're still in speculation territory. But if and when it does happen, I would expect Rivian to be transparent about exactly how data is handled, what gets shared, what stays local, and what the opt-out options look like. Rivian has generally been good about making integrations feel like their own. Google Maps inside a Rivian feels like a Rivian feature, not a Google product that got dropped in. I'd expect the same approach here. The question is whether that's enough for owners who are already cautious about data. I'm genuinely curious where you land on this. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I think this one is worth a real conversation. Okay, let's shift to something that had me genuinely glued to my screen when I first saw it. CNBC was recently given rare access to Rivian's design studio in Irvine, California, and they walked through it with Chief Design Officer Jeff Hammond. What followed was one of the most revealing looks inside Rivian's creative process that I've ever seen. Jeff walked through the philosophy behind Rivian's design DNA, how they think about adventure not as an aesthetic choice but as a functional principle. Every curve, every material choice, every line on a Rivian vehicle is supposed to answer the question, does this help someone do more with their day? But here's what really caught my eye, and I suspect it'll catch yours too. On the walls of the studio, there were posters, detailed product sketches of things we've never seen up close before. Right next to the travel kitchen, which did make it into production and has been a genuinely beloved part of the Rivian ownership experience, there were drawings of a culinary kit, a water module, and a dedicated cooler module. These aren't napkin sketches. These are refined, detailed designs that tell a very clear story. Rivian has been thinking seriously about a fully modular kitchen system. Not the all-in-one camp kitchen that was announced and then quietly shelved before production, something more flexible. A deconstructed mix-and-match approach where you choose the modules you actually want and build the overland setup that fits your specific kind of adventure. I'll be honest with you, this is the kind of thing that makes me genuinely hopeful about where Rivian's accessories lineup is going. The travel kitchen is great, but it's a single product. A modular system would let someone who just wants cold drinks grab a cooler module without buying anything they don't need. It would let the serious overland cook configure something closer to a full camp kitchen. It's a more customer-centric model, and based on what those studio walls are showing, someone at Rivian has clearly been thinking about it for a long time. Whether any of these concepts make it to market is a different question, but the fact that they're still on the walls, still part of the conversation, tells me they haven't been abandoned. Jeff also shared the story behind Rivian's stadium headlights, which has become one of the most recognizable design signatures in the EV space. The shape was inspired by a carabiner, that small climbing clip that any outdoor enthusiast will immediately recognize. What I love about that detail is that it wasn't purely aesthetic. A carabiner is functional, it holds things, it's trusted with real weight under real conditions. And there's actually been speculation in the Rivian community for years being there about whether those headlight bars could serve as a tie-down point. The fact that that connection was intentional from the very beginning says a lot about how deeply Rivian thinks about the relationship between form and function. One more thing from the CNBC piece, they mentioned a price range for the R3 that Rivian has been targeting, somewhere between $37,000 and $47,000. This isn't new information exactly, but it's meaningful to hear it still being referenced as a target. The R3 is the vehicle that could open Rivian up to a much broader audience. At that price point, it becomes accessible to buyers who would never stretch to an R1T or R1S, and it positions Rivian competitively against some of the most popular vehicles in the mainstream EV market. The R2 is consuming most of Rivian's production resources right now, so active R3 development is likely limited at this stage. But the fact that the price target is still being discussed publicly suggests that the roadmap hasn't changed. The full CNBC video is linked in the description, and it's worth watching in full if you're a Rivian design nerd. Now let's talk about the R2 and a change that might sound small on paper, but that I think is actually a really big deal. Reports coming out of Rivian Tracker indicate that Rivian is redesigning the interior door handles on the R2 so that the manual emergency release is directly adjacent to the main handle, exactly where your hand already is when you reach for the door. Right now, on current Rivian vehicles, the manual release is there if you know where to look. But if you know where to look is exactly the problem. In a genuine emergency, a power failure, an accident, a situation where seconds matter, the last thing anyone should have to do is hunt for an emergency latch. Your muscle memory should take you straight to it without thinking. If you have to think about it, it's already too slow. I've talked to a lot of owners over the years, and I've heard from more than a few people who genuinely couldn't locate the manual release the first time they tried. I always tell people to go look it up in the user manual before they ever need it. That's good advice. But good advice shouldn't be necessary for something this fundamental. The fix Rivian is reportedly working on removes that problem at the design level rather than trying to paper over it with instructions. The manual release will be exactly where a passenger expects it to be the first time they reach for the door. That's the right approach, and the fact that it's being addressed before the R2 reaches consumers is exactly the kind of thing I want to see from Rivian. Get it right before it ships. And now I want to tell you about a story that started with a frustrating tweet and ended, at least partially, with a genuinely positive outcome. Zach, from the incredibly popular teardown channel Jerry Rig Everything, found himself in a situation that a lot of Rivian owners will relate to. His 12-volt battery died after about 3.5 years. This is completely normal. It's not a failure, it's not a lemon situation, it's just a battery reaching the end of its service life. Something every car owner deals with eventually. Except that when Zach tried to source a replacement, Rivian refused to sell him one. Not only that, but Rivian warned that off-the-shelf replacement parts could void his warranty. The cost to have Rivian do the replacement? $775 for 2 to 12-volt batteries. Zach pointed out, with completely justified sarcasm, that the total was more than what he paid for his very first car. A car that, for the record, came with its battery already included. He posted about it, and the post absolutely took off. Nearly 2 million impressions, coverage in tech and automotive media. A lot of people who weren't already following the right-to-repair debate in the EV space suddenly found themselves very interested in it. The frustration was real, and it was shared widely because it hit on something people genuinely care about. The idea that once you buy a vehicle, you should be able to maintain it. You shouldn't need a manufacturer's permission and a manufacturer's invoice to replace a battery that costs maybe $40 at any auto parts store. What happened next, though, is actually worth celebrating. Rivian's chief software officer personally responded to Zach. The response acknowledged that the situation wasn't ideal, explained that the 12-volt replacement process requires a diagnostic tool to clear error codes, which is why Rivian has historically kept it as a dealer-only service, and confirmed that Rivian is now actively working on an in-vehicle service menu that would allow owners to perform exactly this kind of basic maintenance themselves. That is a real commitment to a real fix. It doesn't undo Zach's frustrating experience, and it doesn't mean the right-to-repair battle in the EV industry is over. But it does mean that one specific, very reasonable complaint produced a specific, actionable response. That matters. Keep making noise when things aren't right, because sometimes it actually works. Before I let you go, I have to tell you about this week's Community Spotlight, because this one has a special place in my heart. It all started with a photo. My friend Travis snapped a picture of me at a camp gathering out in Joshua Tree, and in the photo I looked, let's just say, less than thrilled. A little tired. A little vacant. The internet being the internet, the community latched onto it immediately, and the meme of Sad Me was born. I thought it would pass in a week. It did not pass. It became somehow a badge. A literal physical badge that people could put on their Rivians. The joke evolved to include the idea that attaching the badge would give your vehicle some kind of mystical efficiency boost. It was absurd and it was perfect. But here's the part that genuinely means the world to me. Every single badge that sold raised money for the National Park Foundation. The parks that so many of us drive our Rivians to explore. The places that give all of this adventure talk its actual meaning. And together, through what started as a running gag about a photo of me looking sad at a campfire, this community raised about 7 tons for those parks. I don't have the words for how proud that makes me. Not of me, but of this community. The ability to take something silly, run with it, and turn it into something that genuinely gives back. That's rare. That's something worth protecting and celebrating. To everyone who bought a badge, to Chris Hilbert who designed it, to Travis who took the photo in the first place, thank you. This community keeps proving that it's about so much more than the vehicles. It's about the people. It's about showing up for each other and for the places we love. Thanks for spending part of your week here with me. Adventure is always out there, and I'll see you on the road.